Howdy y'all, BattleBear here for another video. Today I'm painting up a Shadowhawk. I've started off as usual with priming it black, and then I've added a light coat of orange, and now I'm thickening up the base coat with a secondary coat of Fire Horse Orange. Now we're going to dry brush a little bit of a rustic orange to make it look worn. As you can see here, now we are adding some black to the shoulders, the legs, and overall a few accents, including the center torso, just to add that signature Alpha Regiment Widow black. I will mention that through layering this up, we don't want to apply the paint too thick, so despite being a speed paint, I've added a little bit of water via my wet palette because I want that underlying orange to peek through just a bit. Can't forget the pauldrons on the legs. Can't forget the rear of your mech. Now we're adding some black onto the backpack and the hind legs, around the joints especially. And now we are prepping to paint our visor of the cockpit. I am using two different blues for a bit of a highlight, and then I will be adding a little splash of white in a direction to show some lens glare. Here we have our glorious Newell oil, and we will be applying a gratuitous wash over the entire figure to seep into all the cracks and crevices, and preferably fill them with some shade and black lining. Notice the glossy finish of the Newell oil. This shall not persist for very long. It will return back to a matte surface. It's only a matter of time, and if there is such an excess, just dry brush a bit of it away. Now that we no longer fear the ruining of our highlights due to the Newell oil, we are going back into the side paneling of the visors and just adding a little more blue and a bit of a highlight. Witness me in all of my glorious contrast. Using some Death Commando gray, we will begin to pay some attention to the missile pods, aka the LRM-5s, and our little cannon up top that I'd like to call the Goss, and a little gun on the side. After using some of the Death Commando gray, we will be moving on to a more chromatic metal just to get that shine. Being signature to this chosen color scheme, it does require a bit of Revenant Bone White, so it's an off-white, and I'm going around and just placing it probably about 10% of my model, especially around the joints and a bit on the legs, and it looks nice to kind of bring some pop out onto it. With the cannon, I am adding a very light wash within the cylinder. Do not apply these too thick or your mech will look very cartoonish. Quickly we are adding a little white wash upon the barrel of the gun, not including the tip, which shall later be layered up to a pretty solid white. A dot there, a dash there. We're keeping up with the continuum of our 10% of the model being highlights. Parade chrome is going on the gun finally, although not very liberally, because we still want that underlying dark gray to show through and just have this to bring a little more pop to it. We will also be adding some of that chrome to the joints and inner workings of our mech, and then dirtying them up later, because nothing should be factory new in a battle setting. Through the power of periphery brown, I am now adding some, I guess, darkness around the mech to kind of mesh with my rustic orange. I like mechs that look like they have been walking through the mud for a bit, and it gets all over with a couple of splatters. Adding onto that, I'm darkening up our base, getting off some of the unwanted colors and working on the rock beneath his treads. I've received a couple of recommendations from my local BattleTech community So in post, I have added red to the missile pods to kind of show where the missiles are. And I had darkened up the cannons, opaque green to an emerald green, like we had stated earlier. Thank you guys for watching. This has been a BattleBear Hobby Productions, and I will catch you on the next one. And if I might say so myself, this is a mighty fine looking Shadowhawk.